July 1st, 2023. Lots of exciting news today is starting with that UEFA has officially announced that Barcelona will not be banned from the Champions League. So Barcelona will be in the Champions League this upcoming season. Also, an agreement has been reached to sign Arda Guler from Fenerbahce. And finally, it looks like Ivan Fresneda wants to join Barcelona. Lots of exciting news. Let's dive right in. Welcome everybody to the channel. My name is Mo, and as I mentioned in my last video, I'm currently out of town, so I'm away from all my YouTube equipment, and as such, I'm bringing you this short live stream. I'm not gonna be doing um, any chat section or any discussions. It's just gonna be a quick 10-minute live stream, just to bring you the most up-to-date news. Because again, just I am out of town, but just because I'm on holiday doesn't mean that the club is. The news is still coming out of the club. Lots of exciting news. So let's begin. Now let's begin with the first news with the fact that it's been revealed that the richest man in England, James Arthur Ratcliffe, offered Joan Laporta to buy Barcelona last season, and Laporta refused. So it seems like James Ratcliffe called up Joan Laporta last season and offered to pay for the entire Camp Nou renovation. He offered to pay around 2 to 3 billion euros. In exchange, he wanted 50% of the club, 50% ownership of Barcelona, and Joan Laporta said no. Now, it looks like James Ratcliffe even offered Joan Laporta to sign an agreement that would say, promising not to sell the club to anyone else. And despite that, despite offering 2 to 3 billion euros, Joan Laporta said absolutely not. Barcelona is not for sale. Barcelona is a club owned by its members, which is, of course, a remarkable thing because had James Ratcliffe paid those 3 billion euros, it would have covered the entire Barcelona debt, which is about 1.3 billion euros, and it would have covered the entire Camp Nou renovation, which is about 1.5 billion euros, and still Barcelona would have had extra money left. So the entire debt wiped out, the entire Camp Nou renovated, and Barcelona would still had another 300 million euros. And despite this very tempting offer, Joan Laporta lived up to his own promise that as long as he's the president, Barcelona is going to remain a club owned by its own members, and it's a club that's not for sale. Now, speaking of the club itself as an institution, today Barcelona confirmed something that I announced, I think this was last week. That's that Barcelona have a new sponsorship deal when it comes to their hydration drink, which is Prime. Now, Barcelona had an agreement with Gatorade. That agreement expired on June 30th, so yesterday. And today, Barcelona announced a new partnership with a new hydration drink. It's called Prime. This is a hydration drink company that was started by the two YouTubers, Logan Paul and KSI. And it's a hydration drink that's very popular here in the United States of America. It's also very popular amongst the younger generations, amongst the younger athletes. So Barcelona thought that this would be a good deal for them to sign because they would reach those younger generations, because I don't know if you know this, but there's been a drop kind of in viewership in all sports, not just football. So by signing an agreement with a company that's more popular amongst the younger crowd, Barcelona would be ensuring themselves, fandom amongst the younger generations. Also, it's a drink very popular here in the US, which Barcelona are trying to expand to here in the US. They had a US tour last season. They're having a US tour again this summer. So Barcelona today confirming the news that I shared with last week, which they have signed a new sponsorship deal with the hydration drink Prime. Now, while we're still on the actual club as an institution news, today UEFA announced that Barcelona will not be banned from the Champions League, and the club will play the Champions League this upcoming season. And this news is tied to the whole Enrique Fresneda case, which I've been talking about for several months, where Barcelona were being investigated by UEFA and by the Spanish authorities in regards to those allegations that they had hired a former referee named Enrique Fresneda as a consultant for the club while he was still the vice president of the committee of referees. I said over and over again, over all the videos that I talked about, that there's absolutely no evidence that Barcelona, when they hired Enrique Fresneda, tried to influence the competition, that they try to bribe referees, that they try to buy any kind of influence. The Spanish authorities have said this. It's not just me. This is not my opinion. And then today, UEFA said the same thing. Now, UEFA sent their own inspectors to Spain. They collected documents from the club. They sent this long questionnaire to the club that the club had to answer. And after going through all the documents, all the evidence, UEFA's investigators have concluded themselves that Barcelona, when they hired Enrique Stegrera, that they did not try to bribe any referees, that they did not try to influence any competition, that there's absolutely no shred of evidence proving that. So despite what all the Madrid media has been saying for all this time, that Barcelona bribed their way, that Barcelona won all these trophies thanks to these briberies, it's absolutely false. UEFA confirmed it today through their official investigation, and as such, Barcelona will be allowed to play the Champions League. Now, the case is still going through the Spanish authorities. The prosecutor's office in Spain are still investigating this case, but they have actually reached the same conclusion that Barcelona did not bribe any referees or try to buy any kind of influence. The investigation has now shifted course to see whether the former board of directors under Bartomeu had actually used the whole Enrique Stegrera in order to funnel money and steal money away from the club. So again, UEFA confirming exactly what I've been saying for months, that there's absolutely not a single shred of evidence that Barcelona attempted to bribe referees, and as such, the club will be playing the Champions League. Now, let's move on to the huge news today, and that's that Barcelona have reached an agreement to sign the Turkish sensation, one of the most promising midfielders in the world, who's been dubbed the Turkish Messi, Arda Guler. This is huge news for the club. I've been talking about Arda Guler for quite some time. He's 18 years old, very talented midfielder, great handling of the ball, great dribbling, amazing vision of the field. There's a reason why they've dubbed him the Turkish Messi. Barcelona have been tracking him for quite some time. They tried to sign him. They were trying to sign him, but he has a release clause worth 17.5 million euros. And given this release clause, Barcelona had put pause on this operation because they thought it was out of their reach. But ever since Deco joined the club, he pushed Barcelona to go after Arda Guler because Deco considers that Arda Guler is a generational talent, one of those talents that only comes once in a generation, kind of like Pedri, like Gabi, and even like Messi back in his day. And Deco has been insisting that Barcelona try to sign him. He made a trip to Turkey. He met with the player, met with his entourage, met with Fenerbahce, and today Deco was able to reach a verbal agreement with Fenerbahce, with Arda Guler, so Arda Guler can become a Barcelona player. Now, the agreement is that Barcelona would pay Fenerbahce around 20 to 25 million euros that will be split in two payments. Half would be paid this year, second half will be paid next year, and then Arda Guler would stay in Fenerbahce. He will be staying in Fenerbahce for another season, so he won't be joining Barcelona until next year. And that's kind of to solve those two issues that I've been talking about, which is the number one issue is that Barcelona obviously need to create space on their wage bill for the financial fair play restrictions. So by Arda Guler agreeing to come next year, Barcelona would have more time to clear space for him. And the second concern is Arda Guler, I talked about how his agent wanted Arda Guler to go to kind of like a smaller club, not as big as Barcelona or Real Madrid, because they want Arda Guler to continue having playing time so he can continue developing and growing. So by Arda Guler is staying in Fenerbahce for another season, he would kind of be getting that wish of continuing to have playing time so he can continue growing and developing. Now, while he's at Fenerbahce, Barcelona have agreed to continue paying his salary, which is going to be a very small salary because he is 18 years old. He's still inexperienced. But Barcelona will be involved in the growth and monitoring of the player. So Arda Guler will stay at Fenerbahce. He'll keep playing at Fenerbahce. Barcelona will pay his salary. Barcelona will be involved in his growth and development so they can make sure that he is developing into the Barcelona player that the club want. Now, this agreement is only in principle. It's only a verbal agreement. No paperwork has been signed, so things could change. Real Madrid could come and offer, 50, 100 million euros, and he might end up going somewhere else. But the fact that they have reached an agreement in principle, that is huge. It means that Arda Guler is very, very close to becoming a Barcelona player. Huge news for the club, who are investing now in youth, part of this reconstruction project, with Vitor Roque, now with Arda Guler. Very exciting news. All of this is thanks to Deco, who is starting to quiet the haters. A lot of people doubted him, said, oh, Deco, the only reason they're signing him is because he's Jean Laporta's friend. But he's already showing us the great asset that he is to the club. It was Deco who sealed the signing of Vitor Roque. It's Deco who has reached this agreement with Arda Guler and Fenerbahce. And now, speaking of Deco, it's reported that he will be traveling to South America during this upcoming week because he will be there to meet with some promising young talents, to monitor some promising young talents, and maybe try to work out a deal with some South American promising talents. We don't know exactly who, but there is rumors that he could be going to South America to see if he can seal the signing of Fabricio Diaz. Not confirmed, but Deco will be traveling to South America to meet with some young promising players, and we could be seeing another promising young talent join Barcelona. Now, speaking of young promising talent, let's talk about Ivan Fresneda, who I've mentioned in previous videos. He's an 18-year-old right back, one of the most promising right backs in Spanish football. He currently plays for Real Valladolid, who just got relegated to the second division. So as a result of this relegation, Ivan Fresneda is looking to leave the club. He has a 20 million euro release clause. Many clubs in Europe want to sign him in the Bundesliga and the Premier League. And as I said, Barcelona, we're trying to pursue him. And Deco has been insisting that Barcelona sign him. And it looks like Ivan Fresneda, after the club met with him and with his entourage, now wants to join Barcelona. Now, despite having offers from many European clubs, Ivan Fresneda thinks that Barcelona is the best option for him. He's only thinking about Barcelona, and he's not going to rule out Barcelona unless Barcelona call him up and say, sorry, we can't sign you. So for now, Ivan Fresneda is waiting for the club. He's not considering any other clubs, which is, of course, great news because I think he will be a great addition to the club. Now, the only way Barcelona can sign him is, of course, by offloading players, creating space on their wage bill in order to sign him. So Barcelona first need to offload players before they can make any official offers. But the good news is that Ivan Fresneda is willing to wait for the club because he wants to join Barcelona and Barcelona only. Again, Deco shutting the haters up, sealing the deal of Vitor Roque, reaching an agreement with Arda Guler, and now convincing Ivan Fresneda, who has deals and offers from all over Europe, to wait for Barcelona. Amazing news, but again, Barcelona first need to offload players. So let's talk about an exit, which I mentioned in the community tab, which if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so you can have access to the community tab, which is where I put updates in between videos. But the news is that Barcelona and Samuel Umtiti have reached an agreement to terminate the contract of the player. And that is good news because, as I mentioned before, June 30th was the last day for the fiscal year. That's when the fiscal year ends for the club. And that's when the club needs to turn over all the paperwork to La Liga. And based on that fiscal year is when La Liga determines the new wage limit for the upcoming season. So Barcelona wanted to offload at least one player so they can include that exit in this fiscal year and present it to La Liga, and that way La Liga can give them a better margin on their salary bill next season. And Barcelona were able to accomplish this. They were able to offload Umtiti on the last day of the fiscal year, so the exit of Umtiti will count during this fiscal year, which will be presented to La Liga. So La Liga will most likely give Barcelona a better salary margin had they not offloaded Umtiti. Now, of course, it does suck that Barcelona did not get those 2 to 3 million euros that they were hoping they were going to get by offloading Umtiti. But just by the simple fact that Umtiti is gone, he will clear around 15 to 20 million euros off the wage bill, which again will go into the calculation of the wage limit next season. So great news all around. Barcelona will play the Champions League. They have signed a new sponsorship deal with Prime. Arda Guler has agreed to come to the club. Ivan Fresneda has agreed to wait for Barcelona, and Barcelona have managed to offload at least one player before the end of the fiscal year. Great news, great job by Deco, who will be traveling to South America to sign a new young talent who could be Fabricio Diaz. That's all the news for today. Again, I am out of town. I'm away from my YouTube studio. So please bear with me as I bring you these short live streams unedited. But, even though I am on vacation, the club doesn't rest. So I have to bring you the most up to date news. Make sure you hit the like button, make sure to subscribe. And as always, Peace Barça.